What's wrong, Salome? I asked, uncertain how to react to her muffled sobs over the phone. There was a sharp inhale, followed by a shaky exhale. I thought I could let you go, Ruby. I really did. I tried because I couldn't believe I could be like that with a woman. Her voice trembled. My mom would totally freak out if she. Hey, hey, hey. I cut her off, sensing she was spiraling. You are saying a lot, babe. And honestly, none of it even matters. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my own emotions. Like you said, that night, us exploring each other like that was disgusting. A mistake. I let out a bitter chuckle, masking the ache in my chest. I was the one who initiated it. You don't need to keep reminding me or yourself about it. Silence. A long, unbearable 10 seconds passed before she finally spoke again, her voice quieter now, almost like a confession. Ruby, a pause. I can't stop thinking about you or about that night. My breath hitched. I really want for us to start over. My heart clenched. Just when I had begun convincing myself that what happened between us was just a moment of weakness, she comes back. I should have said something, anything. Instead, I just listened to her breathing, erratic and nervous, mirroring my own. That night, I lay on my bed, staring up at the ceiling, unable to sleep. I thought I had moved on, that I was on a path to regaining myself, to regaining my actual sexuality. I ran my fingers over my lips, my mind drifting to Richard's kiss. The way it had made me flutter, made me feel desired. Geez, Ruby, you don't have to be so loose, I muttered, exhaling sharply. Two people? You've got to be kidding me. I groaned and turned over, trying to push away the conflicting thoughts. Salome, Richard. I squeezed my eyes shut. He's my boss, I reminded myself, not even going to work. But Salome, she was a whole other storm I had no idea how to navigate. Just as my mind was slipping into exhaustion, my phone buzzed on the bedside drawer, jolting me awake. My eyes darted to the screen. 2 a.m. Who the hell could that be? I frowned, reaching for it, sliding to WhatsApp. Calista. I sighed, remembering the missed call from her earlier. Guilt pricked at me. I should have called her back. I opened the chat, only to be greeted by an overwhelming wall of text. A long, super long message. No way I'm reading all that, I thought, my head already pounding from my own mess. I turned off my phone without so much as reading the first sentence. Phone off, now I can sleep, I muttered. But sleep wouldn't come. Instead, my mind wandered into a world where there was no Richard, no Salome, just someone who would hold me, kiss me, and make everything simple again. I woke up the next morning, grateful it was Saturday. The clarity that sleep had given me was refreshing, almost like a spiritual cleansing. I was certain now. I didn't need this love and confusion in my life anymore. I was going to focus on church, tell Richard to stop making those moves on me, and tell Salome I wasn't interested anymore. I would deny myself whatever pleasures my body ached for. Discipline, restraint. I needed to regain control. In fact, I thought, since Saturdays were mostly for confessions, maybe it was time to go. But I wasn't sure of the time. Best to ask Calista. I finally switched on my phone and opened WhatsApp, expecting to reread the long message she had sent last night. But it was gone. Message deleted. I frowned. Okay, weird much. Curious, I tapped on her contacts and called her via WhatsApp. The first ring went unanswered. I sighed, deciding I'd call back later. Maybe she was still asleep. By evening, she still hadn't returned my call. That wasn't like her. Maybe she was pissed that I hadn't returned her call yesterday, and that long message had been her way of venting. And now she was taking her revenge by ignoring me. I shook my head. Drama queen. Later in the day, my phone rang again. This time it was Richard. Ruby, his deep voice greeted me warmly. I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner at my place tonight. I closed my eyes and sighed. Here we go again. Mr. Richard, I started, gathering my thoughts. I just can't. I don't feel comfortable with the new dynamics of our interaction. There was a short silence. Then he exhaled slowly. I understand, he said, sounding genuinely apologetic. I didn't mean to cross any boundaries last night. I've been thinking about it all night. Thinking about you. I tensed, already regretting answering his call. And he continued, his tone softer now. I just want you to know that I'm a man looking to settle down. I'll be turning 40 soon and you are saying too much, I interrupted, rubbing my temple. You are nice, Mr. Richard, really. But I don't think I want this. Not right now. I would like for us to go back to being professional. But if you are right, Ruby, he cut in, his voice firmer now. I'm sorry. I stepped out of line. I won't mention it again. I promise. We'll go back to just being what we initially were. Professionals, preparing to make you the winner. I nodded to myself. Thank you, I said simply. That evening, I was in my small kitchen, stirring a pot of spaghetti when my phone rang again. I glanced at the screen. Calista. Finally, I muttered, wiping my hands before picking up. I expected her usual playful tone, maybe some teasing or banter. Instead, silence, like she was waiting for something. I missed your call, I said finally, trying to fill the void. I was too tired yesterday. I stirred my spaghetti absent-mindedly. Why did you send me that kind of long message on WhatsApp? I didn't even read a word of it. I chuckled, expecting her to laugh too. But she didn't. I was planning to read it this morning when my head was clear. I continued. But alas, you deleted it. You are strange, Calista. One listening to how we interact would think you have feelings for me. I laughed again. Still, nothing from her. The silence stretched long enough for awkwardness to settle in my stomach. Oh, I said, shifting on my feet. Um, I was actually calling you earlier because I wanted to know the time for confession. It's been forever since I took communion, and I'm trying to get my life together. Callista's voice, when she finally spoke, was flat. They normally have one on Sunday evenings after the evening mass. No emotion, no teasing. I bit my lip. Um, okay. The line was still open, but she wasn't saying anything. I cleared my throat. Let's go for evening mass together now, I asked, forcing a light tone. I don't want to go alone. There was a sigh from her end. Okay, whatever you want, Ruby. And with that, the call ended. I stared at my phone, suddenly feeling like I had walked into something I wasn't prepared for. Weekends were always too short. I sighed as I scrubbed the bathroom tiles, my hands wrinkled from the soapy water. Sunday already? The thought made me groan. Since I was going for evening mass, it was best to make the most of my day, cleaning, doing laundry, and preparing for the new week. By evening, I arrived at church before Calista. I had reserved a seat for her next to me, but when she finally walked in, she still had that same long face from our last conversation. No teasing, no playful smirk, just an unreadable expression. I smiled at her and gestured toward the seat beside me, but to my surprise, she only gave me a small nod and walked past, choosing a spot behind me instead. What's wrong with this girl? I thought, suddenly feeling awkward again. Mass started. The priest wasn't Father Callistus today, but another priest I didn't recognize. I tried to focus on the homily, but the weight of my emotions and Callista's obvious coldness made it difficult. After Mass, I turned and walked over to where she was seated. Babe, how are you doing? I asked, reaching for her hand in concern. She quickly pulled away, forcing a tight smile. I'm fine. Her voice was clipped, distant. I frowned but let it slide. We should sit down here, she added, gesturing to the pews where other people waiting for confession were seated. I sighed, rubbing my arm. I'm sorry for making you wait for me, I started to say, but she shook her head. I too need to confess my sins. That was the last thing I expected her to say. I glanced at her, but she wasn't even looking at me. What was really going on with her? To our surprise, it was Father Callistus who was the confessor, the priest receiving confessions that evening. The thought crossed my mind, but I didn't dwell on it. I sighed, better to mind my business. Calista went in before me, and well, let's just say she took the whole year compared to the people before us. I shifted in my seat, stealing glances at the confessional every now and then. It was as though time had stopped. She must really have a lot on her chest, I thought, watching as one of the church officials even seemed to check their wristwatch. Finally, the priest raised his hand, signaling that her confession was over. Calista walked away, her expression unreadable as she walked past me without a word. My turn. Kneeling down before the priest, I took a deep breath. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Between being intimate with a fellow woman and having romantic feelings for two people, I didn't know which could have shocked him more. But as always, priests had their way of staying calm and collected. When I was done confessing, I braced myself for the usual penance, say 20 Hail Marys and 10 Lost Prayers, or something like that. But to my surprise, Father Callistus leaned forward slightly and said, You seem to have a lot going on emotionally. Maybe you should try talking to a neutral friend, someone who doesn't know about all this. It might help clarify your emotions better. I blinked. That was unexpected. Also, he continued, keep away from fornication and mortal sins. Then he gave me my penance, 50 Hail Marys. I left the confessional, feeling lighter, but also more confused. Talk to a neutral friend? Who? As Calista and I sat at the back of the taxi heading to our various homes, the priest's words echoed in my mind. I glanced at her, then down at my lap, then back at her. She was staring out the window, quiet. I decided to take a chance. Would you mind spending the night at my place? The words left my mouth before I could overthink them. Instinctively, I reached for her hand again, and this time, she didn't pull away. Her head snapped towards me, her brows furrowed. What? I chuckled nervously. I have a lot of food. Don't want it to waste. She gave me a side glance, as if debating my intentions. Nice, but tomorrow is work. I sighed. True. A few minutes passed in silence. Just as I was about to let it go, she turned to me. I can't even say no to you, Ruby. She exhaled, shaking her head. Fine, but I have to leave very early tomorrow by 5 a.m. to be able to get to work on time. A wide smile spread across my face. You are the best, Calista. This was the first time Calista had been to my place. It felt strange, yet oddly comforting. We had known each other for a while, yet never crossed that boundary of visiting each other's homes. I hadn't been to hers either. We sat in the living room, the soft hum of the ceiling fan filling the quiet as we ate the jollof rice and chicken I had prepared earlier. The rich, spicy aroma still lingered in the air, mixing with the faint scent of lavender from my air freshener. Calista took a bite, then another, her lips curving slightly. This is really good, she said, looking up at me with what seemed like the first genuine smile of the night. I exhaled, relieved. Finally, something made her smile. You like it? I asked, watching her reaction. She nodded, swallowing another spoonful. You cook really well. She took another bite before glancing at her plate. Can I have more? I chuckled, shaking my head. Yes, sure. Taking her plate, I dished out another serving and handed it back. We continued eating in a comfortable silence, the soft glow of the TV screen illuminating the room. I had put on a YouTube movie, lowering the volume to the lowest setting. Just background noise, really. After a while, I adjusted myself on the cushion, sneaking another glance at Calista. Her expression had relaxed a little, but I could still see the weight of something on her mind. You seem to have a lot on your mind today with the priest, I began, trying to ease into the conversation. She sighed, her fingers absently pushing her spoon around the plate. Yeah, a small frown appeared between her brows. A lot has been going on for me. I hesitated for a moment, then reached out, gently taking her hand in mine. Me too, Calista. I squeezed her fingers lightly. I feel like sharing them with you. Maybe it will make me feel lighter. But you go first. Tell me what's on your mind. She coughed slightly, shifting uncomfortably. Oh, no, no. You go first. I sighed, gathering my thoughts. Where do I even start? I began with the competition, explaining why I hadn't told her about it before. I wasn't sure if it was public knowledge yet, and I didn't want to. Calista interrupted me with a small smile. I get it, but you could have told me, Ruby. I nodded, pressing my lips together. Yeah, I know. She tilted her head slightly. So, what's going on between you and Mr. Richard? Is it only professional? Nothing more? I hesitated. Then, before I could overthink it, I blurted out. I think I have a crush on our boss. I expected her to react with shock, maybe a playful, no way, but she didn't. She just nodded as if she already suspected it. I can imagine this must be difficult for you, she said, her eyes fixed on the TV screen instead of me. I sighed. Yeah, but that's not all. There's more, Calista. She finally turned to me. And what's that? I hesitated, my heart pounding. The words felt heavy on my tongue, like they would change something the moment they left my lips. I don't know how to say this. I chuckled nervously, rubbing my palm against my knee. Don't judge me, but I think I'm into women too. Callista's reaction was instant. Her head snapped toward me, her eyes widening as though I had just thrown a glass of water at her. What? Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. The disbelief, the tension. For the first time that night, I regretted speaking. That night was heavy. I wasn't sure if telling Calista had made me feel relieved or just more burdened. Sleep came in waves, my mind restless, thoughts bouncing between Salome, Richard, and now Calista. Somewhere in the middle of the night, I felt something soft, a feather-light touch against my face. It was slow, tracing delicate circles over my skin. At first, I thought I was dreaming. Maybe I was too consumed with thoughts of Salome and it was manifesting in those strange, teasing dreams. But when I woke up, Calista was gone. She left only a WhatsApp message. Didn't want to wake you up. The office was buzzing the next day, the air thick with work and responsibilities. But I wasn't thinking about any of that. My mind was still tangled in the events of the past 24 hours. Then there was Richard. When I saw him, he looked at me in that way, the same way he did before he kissed me over the weekend. His eyes lingered, filled with something unspoken. My breath hitched, and I immediately averted my gaze, suddenly feeling exposed. Beside me, Calista noticed the interaction. I could tell by the way her eyes flicked between us, the slight tilt of her head. But she didn't say anything. After the close of work, Richard approached me. Ruby, should we? No lessons today, please. I cut in quickly. My voice was firm, but my heart was a mess. His brows lifted slightly, but he nodded. All right. I needed to go home, to sleep, to clear my head. I left without waiting for Calista. Once home, I heated some water, hoping a hot bath would calm my nerves. Music played from my speaker, filling the space. A romance song. I groaned. No, no, no. I quickly grabbed my phone and switched it to something else. Something fast, rocky, anything but soft, slow, and emotional. Then, a knock on my door. Still wrapped in my towel, I padded over to check. When I opened it, my breath caught. Salome. For a moment, I just stared. She was the last person I expected to see standing at my doorstep. What? I exhaled sharply. Her eyes flickered over me, lingering on my damp skin. I could feel it, the weight of her gaze, the tension in the air. The memory of the last time we had been vulnerable together hit me like a flood. Looks like I was interrupting, she finally said, her voice smooth, teasing. I swallowed hard. How did you find out where I live? She smirked, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I asked around. Congrats on your new job, Ruby. You really deserve it. She settled onto the couch, her posture relaxed, but there was something unreadable in her expression. I folded my arms. What do you want? The music shuffled again, and I froze. One More Night by Phil Collins began playing. Salome's smirk deepened. She stood, moving toward me, each step slow and deliberate. I guess the music says it all. My heart pounded as she came closer. She was inches away when she leaned in, her breath warm against my ear. Tell me you haven't thought about this since the last time, she whispered, and I'll stop. And then she crushed her lips against mine. A sharp, shuddering exhale left me as I let go, completely, utterly. There went my confession out the window as we gave into each other once again.